Alright, welcome back. So, in this episode of the restoration, we are actually going to begin by getting the location of the front seats in place. I'm putting a kill switch underneath the driver's seat, so I wanted to get all that located before I continued on with the rest of the wiring, just since that's coming from the battery in the back, up to the driver's seat, and then up underneath to the dash. In this section, I'm actually getting ready to install the kill switch. I got this one off of Amazon, and I believe it is a marine switch, and so far it's worked really well. It's really solid and strong, and the way that I installed it in the floor made it really convenient. I was also fortunate enough to inherit this set of Greenlee punches that was just about the right size for the knob on this switch. As you'll see later on, I had to do just a little bit of finesse with a little Dremel tool to get it to tuck right in there nice and tight, but otherwise it worked really well. Alright, seat bracket is mounted. Well, it's in place. And then this one actually goes on the underside to sandwich the two, give it a lot of strength across there for mounting the seat. And then I got our shut-off switch hole cut, and everything fits real nice. So it's good to get these holes drilled out so that I can run those up through to get that secured, and then that'll be done. That knocks off 2 things from the list. Okay, the next step before I started all of the wiring, running it through different areas of the car, I wanted to get all this surface rust sealed off, and I believe I used Rust-Oleum rust converter. So I just wanted to get everything kind of covered up, closed up, so that I didn't end up spraying wires later, so that everything stayed nice and clean. So that was one of the first things I had to do before I actually started doing my wiring layout. All right, the interior is all painted up as you saw in the time lapse, and as you can see, where is it? Right there. We're starting all the wiring, so this is gonna be fun. Definitely gonna be a time lapse because this is a learning process for me. So not worried about it, it's just gonna be time consuming. So I'll turn around and kind of explain what my plan is. So the intent is to keep the firewall super clean and free of any visible wiring as much as possible. So up here, there's some old, I don't even actually remember what these holes are for, but they go all the way across the firewall. So what I'm gonna do is, because there's no easy way to mount on the inside with just screwing in with self-tapping, I'm actually gonna cut a piece of plywood to fit that. Use those holes to mount the plywood on this inside panel here, and that'll give me space all the way across to actually screw in with little wire clips to keep everything super clean and neat underneath the dash, because I really want it to be. I've already got the fuse panel mounted, but I'll just pull that off and remount that once I put the piece of plywood in there. So that'll make it really nice and easy to keep it clean. I'm gonna route my wires down through the tunnel right there on where that grommet's sitting. That's the original main routing hole, but I'm gonna just fill that in, and then I'm just gonna put a little interior panel over that where the wiring goes through, just to hide that, to keep everything really clean. So hopefully the only thing that you will see is over here around the car. These are all my relays that I have to install for all the halogens, etc. So wiring is gonna come down underneath right there. It's gonna hop across, and then I'm gonna run everything right here over to the headlights, fan, fog lights, all that stuff. And then there'll be one small loom running right here that'll tie into temp sensors, the generator, alternator actually, coil, all that stuff. So it'll be super clean. Everything's gonna be real minimal. And then I will just touch up all these shiny screws with some black paint to make that look really clean. Right here, I was just using the shape of the cowl to actually draw that line for the inside, since it was really difficult to get in there and get that shape from inside underneath the firewall. So that worked out pretty well. Just used a Sharpie, followed that line on the top of the cowl, and then actually just cut underneath that line to give me a little wiggle room so that it wasn't too tight of a fit inside, since it did not need to be. Alright, at this point I am just about to start dropping the wiring in. Once this panel is installed, it is a pretty simple process. The really nice thing about the painless wiring is that each wire is actually individually labeled, telling you what it is. Not just a reference number, but it actually says what that wire goes to, or what it might be for if it's just an accessory wire. It was overall pretty easy install when it came to routing. I missed a couple, got a few mixed up here and there, but nothing too major. So far I'm pretty impressed with the system. Of the most important things to me was to make sure that this setup behind the dash was as clean and organized as possible. If you were to look at it right now, because I have not finished the interior, you would see that it's not completely wrapped up, but overall I've tried to do my best to keep things routed neatly, straight, mounted the relays and all of those different things in a really accessible way, tried to think through what I would have to do if I removed anything to get to certain areas, try to avoid removing the dash at all. So I'll go through before I do the final install on the dash and put labels on everything, and I'm actually gonna draw up a wiring diagram for myself for the future, just kind of the layout of the wiring underneath the dash, and then, you know, in the future if someone else ends up with this car, they'll get a whole notebook of basically everything that is done, and I guess they will also have access to these videos. So that will hopefully make life in the future a lot more painless. So today is my birthday, and I can't think of a better way, with what I do for my hobby, than a better way to celebrate than for the final piece of the electrical to work. And I didn't actually have any problems with all of this new stuff. Everything works, and that's a miracle because I've never done anything like this before, but it took my time, and I think that's really what it was. Took my time, and I checked things over a lot because I didn't want to burn this thing down. So knock on wood, hopefully nothing like that will happen in the future. So electrical is done. I've got some dangling things, but that's just dash stuff that has to be connected once the dash goes in. But everything is good. I'm excited to move on to some final stuff on the engine, all new spark plug wires, get all that stuff buttoned up. It cranks over. All that stuff is ready to go, so I've just got to do a few little things before I can actually put this thing down on the ground and drive it around the lot for the first time, which is really exciting because it has not moved, as far as I know, and from the registration that was on it since 1957. May have moved a few times before it officially got parked, but it's been a very long time since it's been legal on the road, so I'm really excited to get this thing out and start to work on the interior now that basically everything on the drivetrain is done. So just a lot of little piddly stuff left, but I'm hoping in the next few weeks to get all that wrapped up because the interior has a long way to go. So we'll see how this little stuff goes, and then I will definitely be videoing the first drive because that's going to be great. Hey, thanks so much for watching, and if you like this, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It'll really help out. Thanks.